Hello, everyone. I would like to share my testimony from the Egypt mission trip, and I think my perspective will be a little bit different because I wanted to talk more about like the planning and like the behind the scenes kind of thing. But it was a great privilege for me to go on a mission trip to Egypt as a Egypt house church shepherd, as well as to plan for a mission trip for the first time in my life. I've been serving as the shepherd of Egypt for the past 5 years, and I had always struggled in my heart that I've never personally visited the missionary that me and my house have been supporting. There was an opportunity to attend a mission trip in Egypt back in 2022 when PD, Stephanie, Jonathan, and Shiwan all attended. However, I used busyness from school and work back then to skip out on the opportunity. Um, and not going on a mission trip to Egypt, that 2022, has always been on my mind ever since. Yep. And the opportunity finally came when I was able to plan for a mission trip to Egypt with Huston and PD. I've personally been asking PD if ANF, or at least the Egypt House Church, could go on a mission trip to Egypt for a couple of months. Huston, PD, and I were finally able to come up with a date in February early this year. For a mission trip. However, that plan unfortunately had to be postponed due to the rising tensions in the Middle East, along with some other logistical issues. And I remember being extremely sad. Being extremely sad that day when I learned that the mission trip in February needed to be delayed, and especially when I had to notify Missionary Huston about the delay. I've been wanting to go on a mission trip for so long to Egypt, but I was so disappointed that it had to be delayed even longer. And now that I'm thinking back, I'm actually very grateful that the mission trip was delayed from February to October, and grateful for PD's wisdom and patience. I learned that I was actually making this Egypt mission trip like my personal trip rather than for the benefit of the church and for ANF. So PD helped me to really shift my focus and advise me on how I can better plan for the mission trip later this year. So after a couple months of waiting and praying, we were able to finally finalize on a date in October for the mission trip. And when I received the green light from PD and Huston, I vividly remember being so excited about the trip that I took out my luggage bag from the closet, and this was already back in June or July this year. With the thought of meeting Missionary Huston again and meeting his team for the first time, plus finding out the 7 other ANF members who were attending or who registered for the mission trip, I was very much so looking forward to the mission trip. However, this excitement quickly turned into stress, negativity, and doubts for me as the date for the mission trip was nearing. All of the deadlines for my work projects were either moved up or delayed in schedule and landed exactly on the week that I was going on PTO for the mission trip. So 2 weeks prior to our mission trip, I had to quickly ask my team members who could cover for the go-lives, and I had to update them with the progress. So this initial excitement and gratitude of being able to go on to this mission trip became kind of dreadful and distressing as the dates were coming close. So I learned how weak and shallow my faith was during that process. But it wasn't until actually the last 2-hour plane ride from the Istanbul airport to Cairo airport when I was praying that I felt peace with leaving for the mission trip, leaving behind those work deadlines. So I'm very grateful that I was reminded of how much of a privilege it is to be able to visit the missionary that our house church supports, and I was also very grateful, reminded with the amount of support that our team members all received from ANF, from our church, and also for Huston's team for them to help us to come to Egypt. So kind of like what Hannah mentioned, the first 2 days of Egypt were definitely the most difficult due to our entire team not getting enough rest and sleep with the jet lag, as well as some of the most of the ministry that Huston had requested us to do being scheduled in those first 2 days. Even though we were all tired physically, I was beyond grateful for the team members for handling all ministry so well. Chiwon was primarily responsible for the children's program and the classes that we needed to provide for the Sudanese refugees and led all of our ministries like a champ. Hommi was the rock and the foundation that our team could really depend on. Tommy was extremely helpful and resourceful in every aspect of the mission trip, whether it was leading praise or managing some of the team logistics efficiently. Jamie handled all of her responsibilities perfectly and even served beyond what was asked of her to constantly assist others. Hannah served and interacted with others so well that it was hard to believe that this Egypt mission trip was her first mission trip ever. Jason, despite going through some of the personal issues prior to the mission trip, led all of our morning devotionals and served just like how he serves at ANF with dedication, consistency, and faithfulness. And Charles definitely was the funniest guy, funniest person on the team, and set such a positive and bright tone for the entire team despite falling ill himself. Overall, I am beyond grateful for the amazing team for the mission trip and cannot thank our team members enough for all of their efforts while we were there. The main focus of our mission trip was to witness and experience Hudson's ministries as much as possible. Hudson's ministries include operating the Sudanese Refugee School and Church, Arab Bible College, online Bible advertisement ministry, just to name a few. Hudson and his team have the passion and goal of starting a revival in the Middle East, beginning with Egypt. And the main thing I learned while watching Hudson and his team, like Yusri, Samson, Nadir, Nardine, Saeed, was that God must be so pleased with their work in Egypt. And even though these missionaries and ministers are serving in a country that is considered poor and consists of 90% of Muslims, they were serving not only the Egyptians in the country, but also the millions of Sudanese refugees, as well as the missionaries all over the Middle East who could benefit from their online platform of online advertisement. So it was truly amazing to see how much of an effort and time it must have taken for Hudson to really train and disciple his team for the past 10 plus years for them to be able to serve at this level. I learned how important discipleship and leadership was through Hudson. And our mission team had the privilege of praying with and for the Hudson and his team on Wednesday night for their prayer meeting. And I couldn't help while I was praying for them but to think how proud and pleased God must be for them, for these members, for what they're doing in Egypt. Even though I've been serving, I have been a shepherd of Egypt House Church, who has been reading and praying over Hudson and his team through their monthly prayer letters for the past 5 years. I feel that I finally have a little more understanding of their ministries and their work through this mission trip. And I'm sure what we witnessed this 1 week in Egypt was probably not even the 5% of what they actually go through each day of their ministries. But I'm so grateful that I got to witness even a small portion so that I can pray better for them and support them more financially with a better understanding. So this trip has also made me think about my calling here in Dallas. Hudson and his team have a very clear goal and conviction for their calling in Egypt. So for us here in ANF, our calling may be here in Dallas or maybe somewhere else in the future. But as I was thinking more about my calling here in Dallas, one of the verses from the morning devotional that Jason led came to my mind. The 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8 through 10 says, "Most of all, love each other as if your life depended on it. Love makes up for practically anything. Be quick to give a meal to the hungry, a bed to the homeless cheerfully. Be generous with the different things God gave you, passing them around so all get in on it. If words, let it be God's words. If help, let it be God's hearty help. That way, God's bright presence will be evident in everything through Jesus, and he'll get all the credit as the one mighty in everything." So I hope everyone could also go on to the next mission trip to Egypt. I don't know when that will be, or maybe even to other countries where our ANF missionaries are located in, and be able to witness how God's people are working in various different places in the world. Thank you.